Hello everyone, my name is Roya, and today I'm wrapping up all the books that I read in the latter half of November. There were 10 books in just the latter half of November, so I'm going to talk really quickly about each one. That's kind of been the theme of the past few months. I've read a lot more books than usual. Don't know how I'm doing that necessarily. Also, I got some new lighting, and it's nighttime right now, and it looks like it's daytime. All I did was put a fancy light on my desk over where the sun normally shines through when it's daytime, and it literally looks like daytime. That's kind of insane. So anyway, so I'm going to start this wrap up by talking about the two worst books I've read all year. Yes, worse than Fourth Wing. No, not as bad as anything that made my worst list of the past few years. Since I just read this, I'm gonna talk about Hold Me Closer, Necromancer by Lish McBride. I can't talk today. So this is basically about a boy who finds out he's a necromancer, and the reasons why I just really did not like this book are many, actually. So the writing was really terrible. An example of the bad writing might be like, for example, a bad guy hits the main character and the main character is in internal monologue talking about how he did not see that coming because the guy's face expression did not betray that he was about to hit him. It was completely like out of left field. And he says, like, usually you can see in someone's eyes that they're about to do that, blah, 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 but Blah's eyes stayed the same flat brown. And I'm like, does someone's eye color change when they're about to hit you? Like, that doesn't make sense, okay? And the whole book was like that. It just had just some weird metaphors and just weird, like, stuff that made absolutely no sense. And then there are things like, a character is saying that he's really fast because, and this is in his internal monologue, kind of, he's saying that he's a really fast runner because nobody learns how to ride a skateboard without getting good at getting away from cops. And I'm like, on what planet are skaters just automatically, like, doing something illegal? I don't understand. Like, where was this author's logic with this? It just absolutely made no sense. You can hear more about this book in my worst of the year video. I'm quite sure that unless I read 5 books that are worse than this will be making the worst list. Also, so there are like countless examples I could probably come up with how just cringy the entire thing was. But also, like, the chapter titles were all song titles or well-known song lyrics, and the book has absolutely nothing to do with music or pop culture or anything whatsoever. So it was like it was trying to be clever, but it just had nothing to do with anything in the book at all. So just this whole book made absolutely no sense, and I didn't like it. Now, the next worst book I read this month and all year, Last Memoria by Rachel Emma Shaw. This is about a girl who has the ability to steal memories from people, and then the people, like, don't remember whatever that thing is anymore. Like, she literally steals them. And then our other main character is a guy who does not remember 6 months of his life. There's like just a 6-month total blank in his memories, and he knows that they were taken, and he's like, what happened during those 6 months that she is not telling me? And it seems like it involves his best friend who is also not telling him. And the other main character, the girl, just says, like, no, it's up to him to tell you. It's, he deserves a chance to be redeemed and blah, blah, blah. And the guy says, like, well, that's kind of messed up because they're my memories. Like, why should I, like, what, why would you take my memories and just say it's up to somebody else to redeem me? I don't redeem themselves. I don't understand. So basically, this book, the writing was really bad. It really seemed like it was not edited at all. And this is an indie book, which I'm an indie author myself. I fully support indie authors, but, like, the editing in this just did not happen. There was no editing in this. Like, this gives indie books a bad name. I'm sorry. So the main characters had absolutely no personalities whatsoever. Everything that happened in the book was just completely random and arbitrary, not driven by any kind of motivations, because again, the characters had no personality whatsoever. Supposedly the main character, the guy main character, is in love with the girl main character, but we don't see that at all. It's just kind of told to us, and there's nothing in here that says anything about them being in love at all. It was just so, like, the whole thing was just so bland, and the characters' responses to everything that happened are just so blasé. And then the only, like, once we find out what happened during the 6 months that the guy cannot remember, it's literally nothing. It's nothing that was in any way worth reading the book to find out at all. And the first inkling we get of anything that happened is his best friend, the other guy, like, sleeping with another guy, like, and he walks in on them, and he, in the memory, he has no reaction to it, and even in getting this memory back, he has no, it's like not surprising to him. So it seemed like it was making a main character be queer as a shock value type of thing for absolutely no reason. Did the guy know that his friend liked dudes before? Like, we don't know. It's not even, like, told. So this video is just becoming a rant of these two books anyway. So moving on. Sword and Verse by Kathy McMillan. This is about a girl who was enslaved when she was very, very young. She is now, as a young adult, having to become the next tutor who is entrusted with learning the writing system in order to teach it to the next prince. And basically there's a form of writing in this where like, the reason why only the tutor and the person going to be the next tutor and the king and the prince are the only ones who know how to use it is because the king and the prince use it to communicate with the gods. Basically, that's the writing system that they use to communicate with the gods. So this book was pretty good. It did have a good character dynamic. It did have a pretty good premise. It wasn't quite there, though, with the conflict and the character depth and the stakes. It really tried, but there were just some things about it that didn't quite make sense, that weren't quite as thought out as they could have been, but overall, it was not bad. Moonheart by Charles DeLint. I really did not like this book as much as I was expecting to. Usually I really like Charles DeLint's books, but this one was kind of meh. It was just really boring the whole way through, and it could have been so much better. There was also just some weirdly questionable, like, native rep in this. And all of his books typically, like, a lot of his books have native main characters in them, but in this one, for some reason, it was just so overly stereotypical and, like, just straight out of, like, a bad Hollywood movie, pretty much. Like, just not great. And we really didn't get to know the characters in this one either. They were not really the same characters that we get in a lot of his other books that I've read. So this one was kind of just okay. It was sort of not great, and I didn't really like it as much as I was hoping to. Wintershins, also by Charles DeLint. This is a book that is actually a direct sequel to Onion Girl, and I really liked this one. I loved Onion Girl back when I read it more than 10 years ago, probably 15 years ago by now, gosh, but I still think about that book all the time. I love it so much. So this is the direct sequel to that one, where we kind of get what happens next to those same characters, and it was really, really good. I liked it. I didn't like it as much as Onion Girl, but overall it had a lot of conflict going on, a lot of the same kind of stuff happening as in the first one. Huge trigger warnings for child abuse and child sexual assault in both this and Onion Girl, though. So if you want to avoid that at all costs, I would not recommend reading this series. But but overall this book was really awesome. The Girls Are Never Gone by Sarah Glenn Marsh. This is about a girl who is a ghost hunter with a podcast, and she goes to haunted places looking for, proof of the existence of ghosts. She wants ghosts to exist, but she always just ends up finding things that turn out to not be ghosts. So she, in this book, she's going to a haunted house that and she falls in love with the girl whose mom just bought the house, and she's trying to basically find out for this girl, like, why what if the ghost of this girl who once lived there a long time ago, and then this other girl who went to go and investigate it and everything more recently, still reside there, and what is going on with that. And it is definitely a really good premise. I really like that it had queer main characters, and our main character is diabetic and has a service dog, and Sarah Glenn Marsh has said that she will never kill off an animal in her books, and that she loves adding animal companions to her main characters, but she will never kill off one of the animals at all. So I love that about that I can trust that no animals will die if I read her books. That's like my one thing, that if an animal is killed in a book, I will not read it. So I love that I can trust an author that way. But overall, this book did not quite do it for me. I think it was just kind of all right. I think that a lot of the stuff going on with the haunting that she's there to investigate and everything just didn't tie together as well as I wanted it to. It was really arbitrary, so it was really hard to get into, but overall, this was a really enjoyable read. Threads That Bind by Kika Hatsapolu. This is about three sisters who are the descendants of the three fates, and I really expected to like this book a lot more than I ended up liking it. It was a little bit dry, and there wasn't really a lot going on, and it was really hard to get into, but I did really like that the magic system is pretty unique, and I like that we have in this, we do have like the people who are descendants of Greek deities are the descendants of the Greek deities we don't normally see, such as the three fates. So I thought that was really unique about it as well. But overall, this book was kind of just average for me. This Book Is Gay by Juno Dawson. This is basically a guide to all things queer and gay and etc., and questioning even and I wanted to read this book because I see that it's been like challenged and banned just all over the place. And really it seems like it's challenged and banned all over the place because it exposes homophobia. Because I mean, a lot of challenged and banned books that we see are typically ones that show racism or homophobia in action. And this really does talk in depth about homophobia. And it even talks about how a lot of people who are homophobic probably are queer in some way and choose not to identify as such because they grew up in households where their family said that was not okay, and blah, 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 blah. So, this book talks about all kinds of aspects of queer life, such as like is how to be safe and what kind of, what different types of queer lifestyles there are, and how you don't have to be, you're not like less gay if you don't fit this particular gay stereotype or this particular corner of the gay lifestyle or anything like that. Like, there are multitudes and there are many ways to be queer. And I really liked this book, even though obviously I have been queer for a while. I've claimed multiple queer identities for a while now. I'm not necessarily the target audience for this book, but I can see how this book would be so useful for people to read, and that it really should be available in schools everywhere, and yet people are banning it all over the place. System Collapse by Martha Wells. This is the newest installment in the Murderbot series. This is a series of novellas that follow a robot who is basically a security type robot and all of that, and who develops some human qualities and all of that. So anyway, I really liked this newest installment. I thought it was really good. The Ruthless Lady's Guide to Wizardry. This was a book that I actually started reading when it first came out, and I found it so hard to get into. And so I tried to listen to the audiobook, and it was still really hard to get into. This book is about a woman who is hired as a guard for this other lady, and she and one of her fellow guards, who is another, they're all women, fall in love, and all the characters are really great. That's the book's strong point. The characters are really well developed with a lot of personality, and that really comes across in the writing. And they're all very different from each other. You can kind of see that as well. But overall, the whole story of this was just not very high stakes enough for me. And so anyway, those are the books that I read in the latter half of November. If you've read any of these, have any thoughts on them, any of that, please let me know in the comments, and I will see you very soon with a new video.